Welcome to the Epic Success Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Shannon Irvine. Well, such an interesting last 7 days, hasn't it been, my friends? We are in an interesting situation together as this coronavirus is doing what it's doing, and we're living in unsettled territory. We can't control what's going on around us. We are having to become homeschool parents. We are wondering about our businesses, wondering about what's going to happen, wondering. And that creates this sense of anxiety and this sense of overwhelm and this sense of honestly wanting to crawl up in a little ball and just wake me up when it's over. But in reality, we need to rise together. We need to, yes, be scared. Yes, it's never happened in the history of our country, in terms of our generations. However, we, as entrepreneurs, solve problems. We can't control what's going on around us, but what we can do is control the thinking that's going to create our future, or the thinking that's going to create us getting stuck and us feeling scared. And so as I was thinking about what do we need? What do you need? What do I need? What do we need to be able to rise above this and be able to stay future focused in a scenario where we don't know where the future is going? And as I started thinking and praying about it, the thought of bringing together industry leaders, those who you rely on, who you learn from, who you learn how to grow your businesses and your mind from, bring them all together in a panel and let us just share. You know, one of the biggest things I talk about on this podcast is how to learn to think like a 7-figure entrepreneur so that you can become one. And what a better time than for us to peel back the layers of what we're thinking in the midst of what's going on here. I really want this podcast, and this is going to be a 3-part series podcast. I really hope this blesses you, this grounds you, this gets you in an opportunity and a place of hope and of knowing that, yes, we will get through this. Yes, you will not only survive, but thrive. And yes, it will look different, but that is okay. And what we're doing in our businesses and life to shift and pivot, and what you can do too. And I think it's vital that we come together in this way, and for such a time as this, as it's stated in Esther. So this week's podcast, I have 3 giants. I'm humble, 2 giants and me. So myself, Jennifer Allwood, and Rachel McMichael, 3 of the panelists that were part of the Rise Together online virtual series that we did last week. And we are going to bring them here to you 3 at a time, so you can really grab a pen, grab some paper. And I would love to know the big takeaways that you have from this. I know I was feverishly taking notes while hosting it. And I think the feedback was just that this is exactly, as entrepreneurs, what we needed during this season. So I know that this season's going to pass, and I know you're either going to become stronger for it, or you will stay where you are now. And I really want you to rise. And one of the way we do that is to rise together. So here is Jennifer Allwood, Rachel McMichael, and myself breaking down what we're doing in our businesses and our lives with our children, all the things. And I hope it really blesses you. Okay, here we go. Welcome to the Rise Together live stream event. We were going to start singing like, here's a story of a lovely lady. We've got our Brady Bunch people today. Hi, guys. Hi. We are so excited to be able to come to you today. My name is Dr. Shannon Irvine. I'll introduce myself in a minute, but more importantly, I would love to introduce the panel that is here today. Our sole intent, all of our energy is just really going to serve you in a time that is unprecedented, that we've never walked through as a body before, a body of humans, a body across the world. I think we're all realizing that we actually are connected,
and no longer in the silos of our world. So I am thrilled that you're here. I am so excited for us to be able to give. I have no idea how long this is going to go today. What we're planning on doing is I'll have everybody introduce themselves, and then they're going to share a little bit, and then we'll bring it back together at the end in this Brady Bunch style and answer questions for you in the chat. So if you have questions that are coming up, you can use the Q&A, and that's how we will answer questions. We won't look in the chat for the questions, although we will look in the chat to hang out. So I'm assuming that your screen looks like mine, so I'm just going to go across the screen. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Dr. Shannon Irvine, and I help entrepreneurs train their brains, although that's not now accurate scientifically. Train your brain to transform your business, truly removing the blocks that are holding you back from a brain-based neuroscience perspective, and actually build a success pathway in your brain that allows success to become more easy to you, more effortless. And of course, right now is where we're all like having to manage this 3-pound gift on the top of our shoulders. And I know we're not alone in this. I'm curious in the chat, like how many of you have been cycling in and out and in and out and in and out of fear and uncertainty, and that feeling that I don't know what's next, and almost waiting for the other shoe to drop, right? Like checking the news, checking the things, trying not to, but you're still like cycling in and out of fear. And one of the things I'm sharing with my community is just knowing that that is keeping your brain in this serious fight or flight state. And I'll talk about that a little bit more, but I just really love that the antidote to that fear is in this room right now. So gratitude, community, connection, what we were always intended to do, but somehow we siloed away from that in the current culture. We're getting the gift to hit the reset button and to retrain our brain. So, you know, one of the things that really hit my heart, you know, as things were unfolding, our school was ahead of the curve here in San Diego. So they sent them home before it was told to be sent home. So that was the first wave of like, okay, what do I do? And I didn't quite have the idea that something was gonna mushroom. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it started at this like, oh, this is this thing, and they're trying to stop, and then it, right? Normal became gone. And it just reminded me of a time in my personal life. And I know you can probably all draw on a time in your personal life that something happened, an event happened, or something happened in your life that what was normal was now not normal anymore. And that happened for me about 4 years ago with my daughter. It was the night after Christmas. So we'd had Christmas and everything. And then 1 a.m. December 26th, I got awoken to my daughter having a massive seizure, 106 fever, massive seizure, and it didn't stop. So we were 911, rushed to emergency, in emergency for 5 days. And I remember that moment as pivotal for understanding what happens when normal shifts. Because what was normal, and I remember in my struggle, and if you're struggling right now, if you're like mad a little bit and you're kind of going back and forth between, I can do this, let me serve, and, you know, like mad, like this kind of ADD moments or kind of back and forth moments, I want to tell you, you're so normal. And that I'll talk about how that's your brain trying to protect you, and that's okay. But I remember thinking, I just want it to be normal again. I just want it to be normal again. I just want it to be normal again. And God spoke to my heart and just said, for such a time as this, your normal has shifted so that it can be bigger than what was happening before. So that, and I remember being in the hospital room kind of going, is that me? Is that God? Like, am I just trying to make myself feel better right now? And I'm wondering if that's a lot of the conversation you might be having right now, of trying to pump yourself up and then saying this can be better for community. But and the scriptures that have been shared today are so powerful, because in these times, we are reminded that like normal might be shifting, but this has been known since the beginning of time, right? And in this moment, you and I and all the panelists and your clients get to step into the biggest and best versions of ourselves. I remember for like a week or more, maybe after we got home with Jordan, like when I would hear her cough or sneeze, I would, it was my fight or flight response. I was like, run in, are you okay? Are you okay? Right. The good news of that story, I'll tell you at the very end, but it is a new normal. So knowing that your brain right now thinks a tiger is in the room and it's trying to hunt you down, and if you move over here, the tiger's he's stalking you. So that's why your brain is kind of going back and forth between optimism and what the heck am I going to do? Like back and forth and back and forth. That's showing me that you have like a massively high performing, fully functioning powerhouse of a brain that once you harness it, once you tap into renewing your mind and only thinking about what is good, true, pure, lovely, and, praiseworthy. So what is praiseworthy right now? What is good and true and pure and lovely? Because listen, the way we're wired in our brains, we have networks that thoughts are energy. So we have networks built, right, to keep us safe. That's why we're in a little bit of a fight or flight right now. But if you can take this moment and say, all right, and this is going to be some practical things, and we go really deep in this with my academy, but I want to give you some practical things today that you can do to tame that beast, right? To tame that beast and to get your brain focused, not through willpower, not with like the think I think I can, because we talked about that earlier. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's like trying to push down one of those inflatable rafts, right? It's just going to keep popping back up. And that's because your brain has it wired that way. So in order to shift the wiring, you've got to shift the thinking. You've got to think on what is true and pure and lovely and not be available for the other thought process, even though it will still appear. Even though it's still going to, so you're going to still have moments, right? You're going to still have the moments, but you will, and this is a mantra my clients hear all the time, you are the creator of your thoughts. Your thoughts will create your emotions, and your emotions and thoughts combined become your beliefs. Repeated enough, it gets stored in your subconscious mind. And when it goes there, it gets automated, which means you don't choose to think it anymore. It just fires. We don't want fear right now to get automated in your mind. So if you've ever had conversations around procrastination, perfectionism, overwhelm, all those things that seemed big about 2 weeks ago, and now all of a sudden you're going, well, this I wasn't expecting. Here's a new normal. You get to actually use this time. Somebody mentioned personal development, right? This is brain-based, neuroscience-backed shifting of the way you think and building a pathway in your brain towards success that you want versus the fear that is actually present right now in all of our hearts and our minds. So listen, the first practical step is to get out a piece of paper when you start to get that frustration, all the feelings, and you've got to write it down. Now, I know Tony Robbins, he says if you focus on it, it grows. But y'all, 80% of your daily actions or decisions are being run by the subconscious that's being programmed right now. So if you write it down, what happens from a brain-based perspective is you now consciously can see what your subconscious is saying. And you want that, because I don't know about you, but I don't want to have autopilot going and telling me 80% of the time where my brain gets to go or not go. I want to be the creator of my thoughts and create the thoughts that are going to create the reality that I want to have. And God gives us the prescription for that, renewing our mind and thinking on what is good, pure, true, and lovely. So write it down on a piece of paper. And then I really want you to, when you've written something down what you're afraid of or whatever's going on, I really want to encourage you to read it out loud to yourself and allow this beautiful logical brain that you've been given as a gift. It is your superpower. It's your competitive advantage. It's seriously more powerful than you realize. I want you to read it out loud, because what's going to happen is this prefrontal cortex, that brilliance that you already have, is going to start to argue with the lie, because it's a lie. It's a lie. It's not true. But yet, because we keep it circulating in our mind and then we start to look at for evidence of it, it feels truer and truer and truer. So this is the way we stop it in its tracks. We write it down, we say it out loud. And really, without going into deep detail on everything, the next thing you get to do is just really choose what you want to believe instead. Like, really choose what you want to believe and start to practice that belief. So when you feel the fear, you practice saying out loud that truth. You feel the fear, you start practicing that. Now, this is just a real I wanted to give you something practical in the moment, but if you continue to practice that truth, what's happening internally is your brain is starting to lay down a pathway that believes that truth. A lot of us want to see it, right, before we believe it. But from your brain's perspective, you actually have to believe it before you see it. And that's how we're wired. And we're wired that way. Like, slow down, like, with me, because when you think about how powerful that is, we're wired that way. Why? So that we have faith in something bigger than ourselves, is in control and is for us and not against us, is going before us and he's going behind us. And that is faith. We have faith in an airplane when we walk into an airplane and we hope it doesn't crash. We have faith when we get in a car and we drive, but yet somehow the cross wiring happened to where we feel like we have to produce everything in our world, otherwise it doesn't manifest itself. Y'all, God is the biggest manifester there is out there. He will make things come that you never saw and imagined, but not if you continue to believe the lies. And so this 3 steps of writing it down, speaking it out loud, allow your logical mind to start arguing with it, and then whatever the truth is that you really want to believe, you start practicing it and practicing it. We call that, in a very pointed way, brain priming within my community. We have a group of coaches that I certify in our newer coaching model. And I was talking with them the other day about this, and brain priming is so vital right now. Super, super vital, because what we focus on will grow, right? So it is accurate, but we want to choose what's actually hardwired in our brain. And when you start to practice the truth, even though you can't see it yet, your brain starts to believe it, and it starts to calm your fight or flight system down, because we're all in that triggered state, varying degrees throughout the day. So this is something, we're looking for control in an uncontrollable situation, right? Well, here is what you can control. You can be the creator of your thoughts. You can renew your mind. You can think on what is good, true, pure, lovely, and practice it. You know, one of the biggest things with my coaches that I share all the time is the only difference between people that are in multiple 7-figure, 8-figure businesses and somebody who's just getting started or trying to get to 5 figures or wherever you're at isn't, the strategies and the systems, they're important, right? You've got to actually get your message out to the world. They are important. Most of you know I have a podcast called the Epic Success Podcast. That's my vehicle. That's how I get in. And Pat taught me how to do it. So, which I appreciate you for that. That's amazing. I love what I get to do. However, if the person driving the vehicle, like, picture this for a second. Our systems and our strategies in our world right now, our webinars, our memberships, all the things, right? Those are our vehicles. That's how we go. But if we don't operate those vehicles from a place of truly a primed brain that already believes in advance where you're going, it's like your grandma getting into the front seat in the Indy 500 into one of those machines, right? Or like, have you ever gotten into a golf cart? Pat and I were talking about this when I met with him about my keynote speech. Have you ever gotten in a golf cart, right? And you really wanted to go, and you sit down and you hit it, and you're like Austin Powers, like it's not going, right? So it's really it's the operator. It's how you think that is the shift and difference between those who have scaled. Everybody in this room I know has done the work around personal development and really started to do the training of their thinking so that they can get to that next level. And I just, as I wrap up, I just want to, I really feel called with this message. And that's why I started this entire group of amazing human beings. It's so powerful. God really put it on my heart that we rise together, that we are the body, that we are supposed to be connected, that we are called in this moment to not sit down, to not shut up, to not play small, to not be in that state where we're afraid. I really feel he's saying, rise together. Who can you collaborate with? Who can you step into their presence? Who can you serve? Who can you rise up and be in that space of service and leading first? When we put others first, just like the man on the road to Damascus, when we put others first, all of a sudden our fear, now here's the greatest thing, this is the coolest thing in the world. We know through neural network scans, through PET scans, that when fear exists, faith cannot, belief cannot, gratitude cannot. But when gratitude, faith exist in the brain, and service, putting others first, thinking about others first, the mechanism that fires the fight or flight system is muted. It's like almost stunted. So we're looking for solutions outside of ourselves. My encouragement to you is that you have it inside yourself to tap into, but you've got to pour into gratitude, like Pat said. You've got to pour into generosity, like all the panelists said, and serve, be about other people while you're going through this process. We got to rise, and we've got to pivot. We've got to pivot. Now, my pivot conversation might be a little different than the other panelists. You've got to pivot right now. Yes, looking at the messaging. Yes, how am I reaching my tribe? Absolutely. Be a human right now. Pivot to being a human first and a business person second. Pivot that way. Lead with that heart, and people will see the you that makes the difference, that they want to be a part of that tribe. But not just that. I really want to encourage you, and that's what we're working on here, is pivot into your leadership, into your self-leadership, leading yourself. You guys, I've been on this plight lately as I've created my business, and it's scaled very fast online. I had a very profitable offline business. It's only been about 3 years that I've had my online business. It's scaled very fast. And a lot of people ask me about that. Really, it's leaning into, pivoting into that leadership. And in that process, I was leading my business, I was leading my kids, I was leading my marriage, and my health just went down the tubes. I mean, like something had to go, evidently. And what do we do typically? Moms and dads, but certainly moms, we like put other people first. The next thing I know, I'm like, what? My adrenal glands are failing? I don't understand that. Like, that makes no sense. Which, coming from somebody who trained you how to lead yourself on a daily basis as a high performer, I'm like, where'd that come from? But it snuck up on me, just like this is sneaking up on you, right? You weren't planning on that. I wasn't planning on that. So now what am I doing? I have accountability. Do not let go of your coaches right now. You have to have somebody alongside you, helping you grow, helping you step up, helping you lean in. And I have my coach in my corner. I am very uncomfortable right now. Right now, the Southern woman in me wants to go get some fried okra. Like, that's what I want to go do. Like, seriously, everything in me wants to, but I have committed, and I have decided, I have chosen in advance what I'm going to do, what I'm going to think. And so I'm eating completely on plan. Is it comfortable? No. And that's the delusion. We think somehow it should be comfortable. Like, somehow if we're doing the right thing, or if we're serving, or if we're being generous and we're doing that, it should feel comfortable. No, I do know that in the shift between where we want to be and what we're currently thinking, there is dissonance, cognitive dissonance. That's called uncomfortableness. and becoming okay with that in this season, and allowing you to see that your leadership can rise above that, that you can be uncomfortable and push through. You're going to learn so much more about yourself in this season if you pivot into that leadership. So rise, pivot, and then I just want to encourage you before we go to the panel to start. Like a lot of, I've heard from so many people that I've been thinking about this thing, is now a good time. I've been wanting to put my podcast out, is now a good time. I've been wanting to create its community, is now a good time. I've been wanting to do all this stuff. I think I should pull back. No. Rise to the occasion, pivot in your leadership and start. Even if it's baby steps, even if it's one thing a day. Your brain loves 1 to 3 things a day, not 20. The to-do list will never go away. 3 things. Your brain loves that. But start today. What I think we're going to do, we've never done this before. I feel like this is my Brady Bunch family, because for those of you who live in the online world, like your connections, your mentors are vital to you in order to continue to level up to the place that you're wanting to be. And honestly, I'm going to be your big sister or your mom or whatever you aged me at as saying this, like, it is your opportunity to rise. Like right now is your opportunity to lean in, to push, courage. It's moving in the face of fear. It's not without fear. So we're all a little afraid. Just full disclosure, my husband lost his job today. So like we're in it. And I've got 2 kids at home with the homeschool right around the corner from me here with all the walls. I'm hearing them. I don't know if you are. So, but regardless, I am committed to helping you level up. And in the same boat, I'm with you, and I'm rowing, and I'm having to do the work. So what I'd love for us to transition to right now is I'm going to have one of our panelists, we'll just go around the room, kind of share what they're doing, what's coming up for them, what are they, how are they pivoting, what are they doing, and then share something that can be of value to you. So let's jump on over to Jennifer Allwood.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, my name's Jennifer Allwood. I'm so glad to be here. So I coach a couple thousand women every month in the online space of how to build their social media and then how to monetize the social media that they've built. I have 500,000 social media followers. So right now, I am really dedicated to trying to lead those followers, coming from a position of peace and not panic. And in particular, I just really enjoy helping women figure out how they can make money in the online space. So my background is I used to be a decorative painter in the Kansas City area, and that pivoted to the online space 6 years ago. I have my first book, Fear is Not the Boss of You, coming out in 2 weeks. So right now we're making a huge pivot to how are we going to do this all online. I had a conference coming up also in 2 weeks. Again, huge pivot. So it's interesting how I'm having to walk through the pivoting that I've spent the last 6 years teaching people how to do. So we're all going to make it. I am so for women entrepreneurs in the online space. So I'm super excited to be here. I too have a podcast. I'm wanting it to be Pat Flynn's when it grows up. And so you can find me at the Jennifer Allwood Show. So you know what? It's taken me a minute. I'm not going to lie. It's taken me a minute in the last week. And I've been a little bit shocked by that. And I've had to figure out, I've got to give myself some grace. I'm also having to ask for a lot more grace from my husband, from my kids. I think it's fair to say we all feel like we've kind of been, the rug's been pulled out from under us. And it makes me think about when you get on an airplane and they always do those instructions at the beginning that nobody really listens to, but because you've heard it 100 times. But, if something's going sideways, make sure you put on your own oxygen mask first, because you're of little service to the people next to you unless you're taking care of yourself. So I will just go ahead and say it's taken me a moment, because I felt like I kind of needed to grieve some things that were life as we knew it, things that were supposed to be happening, both personally and professionally, that I've put in, years of time for. And so it's kind of like, okay, Lord, I know you intimately. I trust you so much. And yet it's still very uncomfortable. And this stinks. I mean, that's the bottom line. So we have 4 children. And so right now I'm feeling like I'm called to serve the people in my home, my first ministry first. And I can't be of the amount of service I would probably like to be to anybody else until I make sure that we all are situated here at Home Allwood. And one of our kids is a senior. So I did a post the other day. It went viral, like 2 million people on somebody else's page, but it was just to the seniors who are supposed to be graduating in the year 2020. They were all born around 9/11. So they came into this world, they found freedom in a time of tragedy, and now they're being launched out into the real world in a time of tragedy. And I grieve for my kids in that way. They're missing out on graduation and prom and things that mean something to them. So I'm trying to steward their hearts and love on them. We're in the process of adopting a kindergartner, and Ari has lived with us for 18 months. And so if any of you have children you've adopted or kiddos with special needs, which she does not have, but kiddos that come from hard places, they need structure, and they really thrive on routine, and all of that is out the window. And so when all of that is out the window, it's up to mom and dad to really try to establish that here at home. And so we're still right now trying to figure out how can we get Home Allwood working and cranking out well. And I've been showing up for my community, and I coach over 2,000 women every month how to build their social media and then how to sell on their social media. And so I've been showing up for them as I can, encouraging them, don't back down, because by the way, people are still spending. Is anybody else just like Corona shopping? Is it just me? And so, there's a lot of people out there like me who are still wanting to spend money, and we need for you guys to continue spending. And so I've been encouraging people, don't be getting out of coaching groups. Don't be, trimming off the fat everywhere, because that's just going to make the situation even worse. Now, the honest truth is, though, all of us are going to be hit financially from this. And so, as a woman of prayer, the other day, I felt like the Lord impressed upon me, there are going to be people who are getting their light shut off. And that's not our situation at all. But I can't imagine being a pregnant single mother right now. Or, there's just so many different scenarios and situations, a mom with her husband deployed, or a single dad. There's so many different things like that. And in order to kind of combat that, oh crap feeling, I just went onto my Instagram and I'm like, I have a feeling some people are about to get their electric bills turned off. If that's you, will you just DM me, just as a way to kind of just like punch the enemy right back in the eye? Like, I'm not going to freak out about our own finances. I'm not freaking out about anything. I'm going to try to serve in that way, which I felt I had the capacity to that day. So in terms of the entrepreneurs that I serve, I'm really just encouraging them to pivot where they can. We just have pivoted our in-person conference, April 2nd and 3rd, all to the virtual space. Brian is a speaker. He's the only guy we let speak. Sorry, Pat. And I'll tap Pat for next year. But so we've just had to shift, and that requires a whole lot of stuff, by the way. Like Team Allwood that works for me, they're having to scramble. And now how do we do VIP bags to people through the mail? And we've had to pivot the whole 12-city book tour. And what's that going to look like? And my flesh wants to think, okay, nobody's going to buy a book now that I'm not going to 12 cities to hug them in person. And even if I still went, we would have to like hug from a distance, and that's weird. Everything just got weird. The whole world just got weird. And I think it's okay to say that. And so I'm just encouraging my entrepreneurs, if you are in a place where you do like any sort of DIYing, painting, crafting, man, we have like a chaos barometer that we can handle. We only can take in so much on the news, so much from our friends and family before we're like, I'm tapped out. And people want to like have their life be like Bob Ross. They want to like dumb out on social media and just watch somebody paint happy trees. And so if you're like a person, which a lot of the entrepreneurs I coach are, who does any sort of painting, watercolor, if you can read a book, I'm planning on reading chapter 1 of Fear's Not the Boss of You live on Facebook, just for therapy for me and maybe somebody else's heart soon. We've also decided just to give chapter 1 away totally for free on social media. So if you do any sort of DIY stuff, man, go right now to social media and give people a respite from the news. Give them something else to watch. If you're into cooking, baking, cupcakes, decorating, go and be on live on Facebook. If you've, I coach all the time for people to use Facebook Live, use Facebook Live, use Facebook Live. And I've got so many entrepreneurs who are like, well, I didn't want to do it, but now I have. And you're seeing reach skyrocket for so many people. So go live. If you are into teaching or coaching at all, get on social media to your capacity that you can and do that. My pastor always says, blessed are the flexible, for they shall not be broken. That is not biblical, but that is good advice. And so I know flexibility right now is just key. For me, I am focusing on Psalms 91. I've got a funny story. So Psalms 91 is my favorite. I have angel wings all over my house. And people who follow me on Instagram in particular, they know that every time I find a feather, I feel like it's just like a sign. God's got me. He's watching out for me. It's all good. And so I have feathers around my house. I'll show them on Instagram when I find a feather. It's super fun. Until yesterday, when I was in the middle of coaching, I had like 100 women on a call. And one of my sons was letting the dogs out to the front yard, and a bird flew in our house. And so then I'm like, get a broom, while I'm coaching 100 women. So he's getting a broom. And so the bird, God bless it, it was pretty, it was red, it was not a cardinal, but it flew into our windows, which overlook water. And so I think it was hard for the bird to see there was water. And he died. He died right here in my house. And we had feathers everywhere. We had to get like the broom and the dustpan. And so I was joking, not joking. And I feel bad for the bird. But God was like, I've got you with all the feathers, girl. I'm Psalms 91 in your house. I'm showing you with the dead bird. I've got you with all the feathers. And so, that was my funny story for the day on Instagram. I too, like Aaron, I have to have a little bit of humor, and I'm trying to give grace to the people who don't think that this is a time to be funny. When you're in the middle of grief, and a lot of us are, there are stages of grief, and humor is one of those. And it really is a way of helping. I think God gave it to us as a way to protect our soul, from so much hard stuff. So right now, instead of trying to send people to my email list, I'm just trying to send them to Jesus. Like, he can make you feel better. I can't. I've been using my Facebook Live. I have 360,000 people following me on Facebook. I've been praying there. Tip, if you're a person of prayer and you're going to use Facebook to pray, I would suggest you leave out the words prayer from your title right now, because that's going sideways for a few people. But I'm determined to, whatever capacity I can. My first ministry is in my home, and then I will serve my community via Facebook, via Instagram, to the very best of my ability. I'm going to keep serving, both my audience and my clients, but also just trying to remember I've really got to take care of me first before I have the capacity to take care of anybody else. And I feel like I just talked for an hour. Did I?
No, not at all. You didn't at all. And so
I don't have a shortage of words.
And that's why we love you. That's why we love you. Thank you so much. That was amazing. And Rachel, how do you feel about leading us off? Are you good to go with that?
I'm all in. Let's do
right.
it. Hi, I'm so excited to meet everyone. My name is Rachel McMichael. I'm the founder of the Business with Impact Society, which is a community for online coaches and course creators who are ready to grow their business, but they don't want to do it with all the hustle, with all the fatigue. They don't want to sacrifice their families on the altar of success. I'm really, really excited, honored to be with you guys here today. I have not been through a recession like this before, but man, like in hard times, I know that the best thing that we can do is come together in community. And so this leaders, like all the amazing people who I have the opportunity to be up here with, let you know what we're doing, how we're handling it. I think that I hope that today is an encouragement and an inspiration to you. And just to give you a little background on how my brain works, when things happen, I do one of two things, right? I either go grab some ice cream and binge on Netflix and just like totally numb out, or I get into like action mode. Like I just got to do something. I got to take action. I got to do something. I kind of been back and forth between those, to be honest. And what I really realized for myself is that I have such an opportunity, like you guys said, like this is an opportunity if we'll take it as one. And if you believe that God works all things together for good, and you believe that that is true, if you believe you are divinely created, if you believe that God works all things together for good, then you know what's going to happen. Like you already know the outcome. So we don't have to live in a time of total uncertainty. It feels uncertain right now. It doesn't have to be uncertain. And so I make lists when things like this happen. So I made a list. I was like, what are the pillars that I need to be focusing on right now? My business, my family, my health, and my faith. And then I took those pillars and I just started to categorize them out. All right, what's important in my business? My finances, my marketing, and my operations. Those are the big things in my business. What am I doing with my finances? Well, you guys, I'm going to focus on stewardship, not scarcity. Stewardship, not scarcity. And so what does that look like? For me, practically, that looked like going back through the last year's expenses and saying, are there unnecessary things that are happening right now? Have I been a bad steward if we're just being honest, has my head been in the sand in some areas in my business where I just haven't taken action? For me, that looked like I have 3 webinar platforms that I pay for right now. 3, I don't even use them. Why am I paying every single month for things that we're not using? Now, I want to be really clear. I'm not talking about marketing. I'm not talking about things that produce an ROI. I'm not talking about investing in coaching and investing in your business. I'm talking about unnecessary expenses, things we're like legitimately not using. So we went through that and we said, we're going to get to be a really good steward of what we've been given right now. We're not making decisions out of scarcity. We're not making decisions out of fear. Then we looked at our marketing. We said, look, the marketing messages has to change. The truth is today is not yesterday. And where people's heads are at today is not where their heads were at yesterday. And if you try to talk to them today like you were talking at them yesterday, it's not going to go over very well. And so we've got to change our messaging, our marketing messaging. And for us, that looked like service. How are we going to serve even better? How are we going to serve even higher? What can we do differently to let people know that we are for them and we are here? And then operations. What do the day-to-day operations look like? You guys, can I just be really honest? There's some times in our businesses where we're just kind of checking the box and we're doing things that might not actually make sense, things that don't actually produce revenue, things that aren't important. Yeah. We're doing things that don't matter. And like Michelle and many others in the room, I'm throes of being a mom. And God designed some moms to be amazing homemaker, homeschool, like you guys, that's what you were divinely created to do, and you do it so well. And he made me to work hard and work hard well, but he also made me a nurturer. And so I'm trying to navigate that. And there's no mom shaming going on either side, because I am totally for, I mean, I've never been more for teachers and daycare workers and babysitters and all the people. And I'm also for all the moms who, it's a struggle right now because this isn't what we're used to doing. Everything changed overnight for us. And so I had to look at my operations and say, I've got even less time. I work 3 multi-6-figure businesses in 16 hours a week. And now I've got about 2 hours a day. So how am I going to get it done? What am I going to do differently? How am I going to do things differently? What just absolutely doesn't need to be done? What can we delegate? How can we do it different? So we practically looked through that and we talked to our team members. There were some team members that we said, hey, I'm just being honest, you guys. There were some team members that we said, hey, we're capping your hours now. That's just what makes sense right now in this time, in this season for our business, with what has to get done versus what we would want to get done. So we looked at our operations. And then from a family perspective, that bled right into my family. And I'll just tell you what we did with our family. We focused on routines, not rigidity. You guys, I have to work. I have people, I'm called. I'm purpose-filled, divinely called to do this. If I'm not doing this, I'm not doing what I'm called to do. So I have to work. It's not an option. And so I had to figure out, how do I make that happen? And so for me, what that looked like was I sat down with my daughter and I said, tell me every single thing that you do at kindergarten all day long. Like, tell me what happens. How does your teacher keep you occupied for 8 hours a day? And she told me. And so we put together a routine for her. She thrives on routine. Our kids thrive on routines. And so we put together a routine. And that looks like, for us, it's going to look different for everyone. I don't have to go through my exact routine, but basically we eat breakfast. We do some homeschooling. We get our wiggles out. You guys, that's like actually what her teacher calls it. We get our wiggles out. So we go get our wiggles out. We do all the things. We watch Rainbow. Any children of the 80s and 90s who used to watch Reading Rainbow, I'm going to highly recommend Amazon Prime. It's the best. She loves it. They read her a book. They educate her. They do these domino tricks and look at the factories and how the factories work. It's the best thing in the world. She watches that. And guess what I do for 30 minutes? I do what I need to do on the internet. My son, he follows his sister around. So he just does whatever she does. So that's when he follows her around. We eat some lunch and then we have quiet time. And when baby brother's sleeping, big sister knows that that's mom's work time. And we've communicated that. I've said, hey, I want to play with you. I want to hang out with you and I want to school you. But in order to be able to do those things and be totally present with you when I'm doing those things, I got to have work time. And so you got to hang out in your room and do whatever you want to do time. I don't care what you do. You can play, you can color, you can nap. She takes a nap every day because she gets tired. If we don't communicate with our spouses, we will resent each other very, very quickly. And we know that because we've been there. And I remember looking at my husband one day and saying, you think that you're helping me, but you're resenting me the whole time you're doing it. And so it's not really helpful. It's really hurtful. That will happen if we're not communicating. We're not saying, hey, here's what I'm doing and here's why. Here's what I need and here's why. Here's how we can work together and do this together and here's why. So we are having those conversations every night. Hey babe, can you watch the kids? I'm serving right now. And so really for me, I've had to say, like, this is what it looks like to serve my family and make them the priority. This is what it looks like to serve my business. And I don't have time for the news anymore. I'm so focused on serving and I'm so focused on being present with my family that I stopped listening to the news. And then guess what happened? I stopped being worried. I was so focused on serving, and serving brought me joy, and joy brought me gratitude. And then I didn't have time to look at the news. And so I don't actually fully, I mean, I keep up, like y'all, like I get the news alerts on my phone. So I know what's going on in the world, but I'm not spending 20 hours a day glued to the TV, panicked about what's going to happen, because I'm too focused on serving my community, serving my people, and serving my family. And so practically, that's what it's looked like for me in this season right now, Shannon.
So powerful. Oh my goodness. So powerful. So many good tips that we can, I wrote down 3. I love it. I love it so much. All right. That's a wrap for part 1 of this 3-part series called Rise Together, what the industry leaders online are doing in their businesses and lives to pivot during an unsettling, uncertain time. I would love to know from you on social media at Dr. Shannon Irvine. Please tag me. Tell me what your biggest takeaways were. And if you have a lingering question, let me know. I know that this is a time that we really get to link arms virtually, of course, and support and serve each other as we continue to rise together. Next week on the podcast, we will have Christina Jandali, Aaron from Fit Rock Chick, and Pat Flynn breaking down what they are doing during this season. And I'm looking forward to seeing you back here next week on the Epic Success Podcast. Bye for now.